David here. We're going to now welcome on to the broadcast the editor-in-chief of The Torch, Mr. Kieran Lynch. Kieran, how you doing today?
Good, Mike. How are you?
We're wonderful. Welcome on to Cover 3. And Kieran, we're going to pivot back, as we said, to men's basketball yesterday. That was Media Day. When you kind of scavenged across the room, what did you pick up with the season, new expectations, and new additions to their lineup?
Well, what I saw was a team that has clearly matured since they first came on campus, the core of them, 2 full seasons ago, almost 3 years. And it's really amazing, the maturity process, and just seeing how much perspective they clearly have now. And now they're not running around talking about Final Fours and this and that. They're just saying, we're just going to take it one game at a time, and we got a good team. That's clearly what you see here.
So let's segue to the women's. With Nadir McKenna and Shanika Smith gone, with Eugenia McPherson coming back from an injury, Brianna Brown getting a bigger role of the team, how you fare for the women's?
They had a kind of disappointing year last year, but it was a difficult situation going from coach to new coach and all that kind of stuff. Now they're losing 2 of their best players, but they got a lot of young players coming in, and hopefully for their sake they can turn around. But to be completely honest, I see this year kind of as a rebuilding year for them.
I tend to agree with you, Kieran. When you lose a player like Shanika Smith and how prolific she is scoring, they've got a lot of good guards, but I think they're going to have to find their way. And I don't think it was in the cards for them or their expectation hosting a NCAA tournament game that they'd be out in the first round. And then they lose all those pieces. Joe Tortorella in his second year, I think, is going to have to rebuild, but he did bring in some good pieces. And Kieran, just to go back to men for a second, of course, Rasheed Jordan wasn't featured there yesterday, but there's a lot of talk about how good of a player he is. We hear a lot of things. People who don't really know a whole lot about Rasheed, what did you kind of pick up? What was head coach Steve Lavin and maybe some of the other guards and players on the team's sentiment about this supposedly young stud who's going to be coming into the program?
Well, first of all the point guards who played against him in practice so far in the few weeks they've been practicing thought very highly of him. He's 6'4", he has a long wingspan. That's what Lavin was saying. Lavin spoke highly of him, but not in a way that's not typical coach speak. Where it's like, oh, he's the best new freshman I've ever coached. Not like that. Just saying he's a solid player. He's gonna play a major role on this team this year. How much of a role we'll have to wait and see. But he's the highest ranked recruiter Steve Lavin's gotten at St. John, so you have to expect him to play a lot. But he's clearly got the talent. They're keeping him kind of under wraps, Lavin said, until Christmas before unveiling him to the media. But he's going to play a big role, and he's going to provide some real competition for Phil Green, Jamal Branch, and even D'Angelo Harrison for playing time.
Okay, so, of course, we all know Rasheed Jordan's going to have a big role with the team. But what about the other newcomer, Orlando Sanchez? And how do you think the combination of Orlando Sanchez and Chris Obekba will work out? Oh, yeah. I mean,
it basically, St. John's is filling a lot of the holes that they've been missing the last couple of years. You're getting Orlando Sanchez, who's 24, 25 years old. He clearly knows what he's doing on the basketball floor. The question is, how much of an impact can he make in shooting stuff? We know he's big. We know he can block the ball. As people were saying yesterday, he's got a blocking skill that nobody's really talked about. But the one question I have about Sanchez is, it's taken him this long to get to where he is. Why is that the case? Why have people not been recruiting him sooner? That's the one question mark. But for anything else we hear, he should be solid. And obviously, Obekba, he led the nation in blocks last year. He's probably going to keep improving. He's not much of an offensive threat, but everybody said he's been working on the offense during the summer and should come back even stronger on defense. And an interesting point about that was I talked to God's Gift yesterday, and he spoke about how he's been learning a lot from Obekba in terms of shot blocking, just seeing him and Sanchez working together and just seeing how they got these few big men really, really combining. And it's something that St. John's hasn't had in a long time.
You're here with Kieran Lynch, senior editor of The Torch here on campus. And Kieran, I want to get back to Obekba. Mike went up to him the other day, yesterday I believe, and he asked him about, how he's improved or whatever. And he said that he doesn't just want to be the reigning champion of the blocks. He doesn't want to just lead the country in blocks anymore, which he would like to have. But he would also want to be the defensive player of the country. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think he could do it?
Since day one, he's had a strict defensive focus. And Lavin said that way back when he first came on campus, that unlike other players he's seen, Obekpa knows his role as a defensive, I don't want to say master, that's giving it too much praise, but a very good defensive player. And when you have a player who really understands his role like that, the sky's the limit. He's gotten bigger over the offseason. He told me he put on a lot of weight when I spoke to him in August. And he's actually showing up on some draft boards now for the NBA. So, I mean, would I expect him to leave the NBA after this year? No, but clearly the potential's there. He's a guy that has that NBA sort of talent. So could he be Defensive Player of the Year? Absolutely. And I think a lot of that factors into how the rest of the team performs over the year.
Focus on another player who's going to be joining the Red Storm for his first active year, and that's Max Hooper. And he kind of had a Looney Tune game when he went over to Europe, something like 10 for 11 from three-point range. Kieran, what is this guy about? Give us an idea of what he's like, and can he really improve a Red Storm perimeter game that's just been, pretty bad in the lowest ranks of the NCAA?
That's a really good question, Mike. Hooper, as a freshman at Harvard, he got basically no playing time. Then he sat out a year and he came here to be with his friend, Jakar. The question is, does he have the athleticism to stick with the rest of the team? And my gut reaction is yes. He's like 6'6". He doesn't have to get stuck in a shooter role. He can play a little small forward, even power forward if he wanted. He hits tons of shots. We know that. The question is, what happens when you get a defender in his face? And it seems like it's just one of those wait-and-see things. We saw Marco Borgo. There was a lot of high hopes for him. He didn't really pan out last year. He might get a little bit better this year with Hooper next to him. You never know. The two of them together, D'Angelo Harrison said it yesterday, that they have a lot more shooting ability on the team this year, and that can really, help bust the zone like a Syracuse. So it's really just going to be a wait-and-see approach with him, but he definitely has the ability to make tons of shots. It's just what happens when there's a defender in his face. But D'Angelo also said a couple weeks ago to me that what you're looking at is a team going from one of the worst teams in shooting to maybe a pretty solid shooting team. And I don't know if necessarily I believe that, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and it all comes down to having more options and having more depth.
Definitely.
Kieran, we all know the names D'Angelo Harrison, Chris Obekpa, but who do you think is the X factor? Meaning, who do you think is the player to watch that nobody's really talking about this year on the team?
Phil Green. I said that last year. It didn't necessarily pan out. He was a very high percentage, taking a lot of shots, not really making a lot of shots, but he was also dealing with a nagging hip injury. It's been a problem for a couple of years now. He had surgery in the offseason, and he said yesterday he's 100%. He's feeling great. And you just saw yesterday that he's really comfortable where he is right now. Phil has always seemed to be one of the quieter guys on the team, but suddenly now it seems like he's coming out of a shell a little bit. He's one of the elder statesmen, I guess, along with Dom and D'Angelo. But I think if he's comfortable and he's not hurt, he doesn't have to take as many shots because there's a lot more members of the team who could take shots. I think you're looking at a really good breakout year for Phil Green.
This is obviously a season of expectations for St. John's. And I was at the media day, and I'm pretty sure you know that the players seem confident. They all seem optimistic about the season. What are your season expectations for the Red Storm?
Well, the general gist I get from the program, and this isn't necessarily on the record, not on the record, but just like Steve Latt won't come out and say this kind of stuff, or any of the players won't really say this kind of stuff. But I think the expectation around the program and within the fan base is this team has what it takes to get to a Sweet 16. Whether they do, I don't know. But the way the team is pushing it in terms of talking to media members and stuff is, we're just trying to get to the tournament. When we're trying to get to the tournament, we'll worry about the tournament from there. I think if they don't reach the tournament, it is an utter failure for this team. They have talent, they have athleticism, they have experience, and there's really no reason for them not to get there. Once they get there, anything can happen. If I had to guess, I'd say finish 3 or 4 in the Big East and maybe take it a couple games in the NCAAs in March.
Do you have a win total, at the end of, say, conference play, and they go into the tournament, they have the Big East tournament? Do you have a number of wins that they're going to need? Usually what's around 20 to 22 wins you want to have to at least contend to get that slot or that bid. Do you have a count that you've gone looking at the schedule?
I think, taking a look at the schedule, I think you're gonna get a couple losses in the typical St. John's way. and you're just like, what is going on here?
Right, you bang your head like you're going to lose against San Francisco, for instance, early in the year.
I don't think it'll be San Francisco. They already took care of losing to them. But I think you might get some up and down games early in the season, similar to the way with the Dwight Hardy crew. They lost a couple of games before really getting their heads on straight. I would see, to make the tournament, probably it'll take 20 wins. It's weird. It's kind of hard to predict because of the new conference. But if I'm looking at St. John's, I'm saying most likely they get around 21 wins. They'll probably lose some weird ones, win some weirder ones, and come out top half of the conference.
All right, this has been Kieran Lynch, the editor-in-chief of the Torch as well. Kieran, are you still running Sweet Sweet Lavin?
It kind of died out. I've gone from that kind of blog stuff to editor-in-chief of the paper and actually freelancing as a real-life journalist. So I guess kind of the blog stuff kind of fell out to the wayside.
Well, Sweet Sweet Lavin was wonderful, and since you've taken over the Torch, it's been just as good. And we thank you for coming on, and we'll talk to you real soon.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kieran.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Kieran Lynch, the editor-in-chief of the Torch, came on, talked with us about St. John's basketball. Shay, you're a wealth of knowledge on this subject, and it seems like it just comes down to three things. They had depth, expectations, and on top of that, the pressure and seeing how it's all going to pan out this year. And Kieran mentioned it could very well be that if you don't make the tournament this year, is considered a failure.
Yeah, and he didn't just say just a tournament. He said a Sweet 16. And
Yeah.
I honestly agree with that. With all the talent they have, D'Angelo Harrison said it best. They have an all-star lineup.